All right, everybody, welcome again to Pencil Leadership today. Super excited for our guest on Pencil Leadership. We have the great, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, even though I've already practiced, Roman. Oh, Roman, just tell me how to say it, man. I can't do it.
Try. I'm sure you won't butcher it that bad.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? Let me get it here so I can look at it. Don't worry. This is a good thing about it. You can edit this out. All right, guys, we have a great guest today, Roman Prokopchuk on the
Close
show
enough. That's
today.
good.
Close enough. Awesome, Roman. So, guys, Roman is actually a first-generation immigrant from the Ukraine, but he was forced to kind of get into a new industry with the 2008 recession, actually into the digital marketing world, where he self-taught himself how to do it and ended up falling in love with the career, actually. And so he has 11 years of experience leading digital teams in senior leadership roles on over 600 campaigns across a lot of different industries. And he actually founded his own company, Nova Zora Digital, in 2012. And on top of that, he is the host of Digital Savage Experience podcast, which is a top 100 podcast on Apple Podcasts for how to. And then just adding to his resume, he is a foster parent. And I believe they fostered over 20 children, which is just amazing. So that just shows the kind of person he is, the kind of heart he has to help people. And so super excited to have Roman on the show. Roman, welcome.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I guess a little introduction, but would you like to expand a little bit more on your story and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Yeah. So I came to the US, like you said, from Ukraine in 1990 when I was 5. Ukraine got its independence from the Soviet Union in 92. So it was still under kind of the USSR. We came here, myself and 6 other family members, to a 2-bedroom apartment. And basically, we had a sponsor here. And the way you came during that time, we had to go through Vienna, Austria, and Rome, Italy, and then here. So when
Wow.
I came here, I got right into kindergarten and had to learn English. I guess that was the biggest hurdle. I
Yeah.
didn't speak the language, but being a child that young, you pick up languages and kind of phonetics really quickly. And that's why I don't think I have an accent at this point.
Mm.
Somebody came over when they were like 16, 17, the way your brain's already programmed for language, regardless of how long you are in that country and know that language, you'll have an accent. So I went to school here, obviously kindergarten to 12th grade. I went to Rutgers University, have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Last semester, I interned with the Secret Service on the counterfeit currency squad with a top secret federal clearance, which is cool for an intern and a college student. But even being there, in terms of a criminal justice role, I saw it's not necessarily a right fit for me based on you have to move around and be positioned and re kind of stationed every few years to a different post. And you have to serve kind of the Washington, D.C. duty one time in your career. So, kind of that presidential vice VP protective duty. And even before that, I wasn't too sure if I wanted to do criminal justice, but when I graduated, the recession hit. So I was applying to state, local, and federal agencies, and all of them basically kind of froze hiring and spending money. So I was kind of down for a few months. I was depressed. Only thing that really kept me sane was going to the gym. And then I met someone, luckily, and they basically said after one workout, come outside to my car when I give you something, maybe it'll help. Which the conversation and that scenario could have went a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
But I went outside, they opened their trunk and they handed me like a 50-page packet about search engine optimization. They said, read this, go online for about a month or two, brush up on it, and you can start doing that for my company. So basically 2 months, 3 months, I did that for free just to gain experience. And then I got an opportunity to start at another company, which was a 50,000 person company, a corporation. And
Yeah.
there I started as a contractor, $16 an hour. And before I left, I was making a lot more than that on a salary. So I started free and then I ended up getting to 6 figures. And then I founded my own agency. And I love the industry because it's an ever changing thing. Obviously, the digital ecosystem keeps changing. You have to keep learning. And the growth possibility is pretty endless in that kind of standpoint. And like you said, in 2012, I founded my agency and been running in the digital marketing space ever since. I do have a podcast I started 2.5 years ago, which I interview, other people about their journeys, what makes them tick, things that they went through to get to where they are now. I am a foster parent. So since June 2018, we've had 20 kids in our home. And with this whole COVID stay at home, we've had 4 kids under 6 the whole time, which has been
Yeah.
a little crazy for boys. And that journey has led us into that by we've had 5 miscarriages in the last 3 years and spent over 100K out of pocket on infertility treatment. And that kind of led to the fostering, and we're technically designated as foster to adopt. So if we have a child and the parental rights are terminated, we're the first ones that, the division of child services goes to
Hmm.
ask if we're willing to adopt. So we
Wow.
saw that as a means of obviously helping children, because there's about 700,000 kids in the foster care system in the US, which
Wow.
is
Hmm.
crazy. Some of them have good foster homes, some bad, and they're just products of their kind of environments, unfortunately thrown into situations that they didn't create. And we felt we can help a lot of kids, and if we end up
Yeah.
adopting, so be it. But in the meantime, we're giving a safe, loving home to as many kids as we can. I mean, we're allowed to have up to 5 kids based on licensing, because it's based on your home as well, so the
Okay.
number of bedrooms and things of that nature. And
Gotcha.
the whole last 8 week, that demographics and different things are interesting, being cooped up with 4 kids under 6 and still
Yeah.
doing a podcast and working and stuff like that. So it's been a learning experience and a teaching experience of my patience. So
Oh, I can imagine. That's crazy. But that's so cool that you have the heart to do that and help the kids that really need it. Um, so I guess what was like going through your head within like this whole recession, then this guy handing you this big pamphlet of information, like that you're like, okay, maybe this could work, or okay, well, I got nothing else. So like what were you thinking at that like during all that?
yeah, it wasn't even an option at that point. I applied to hundreds of jobs and no
Yeah.
callbacks, and months after month. I guess when you go to college, you kind of feel a little like cocky after you graduate with, usually a bachelor's degree. I mean, some people associates or more. Like you feel like you're entitled to a job in a way.
Mm,
So I kind of thought about it. I went to school for 4 years. Why can't I find a job? Or like, I'm not good enough to find a job. My skill
mm,
set's not good enough, so on and so forth. And you become kind of doubting yourself and your abilities.
yeah.
And I think you get down, and oftentimes you can get depressed and stuff like that. Luckily, I didn't really turn to, like any substance or anything to fill the void. But yeah, I felt that was kind of necessity. I had nothing to lose, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I kind of jumped into it and kept learning and been doing it ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious because it's not my strong suit at all. Is the SEO. So what did you find was the hardest about figuring out how to do that search engine optimization?
Yeah, so there's different components of it. There's on-site, off-site, and technical. So more
Right.
so the technical, like the back end of the website, how the website is built, how it's coded, and how it functions and how it performs based on that, and search results as well. So stuff like content wasn't that difficult for me, or content strategy. The off-site, which is the link building and reputation building, kind of authority building component of it.
Mm,
So I think I had to really teach myself HTML, CSS, other kind of programming languages, at least to I'm not saying I'm a developer, a designer,
uh-huh.
or a engineer, but a functional level that I can apply it and use it and be proficient at it in terms of fulfilling that role the best that I could.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I've looked into it and it's definitely like really interesting, and there's a lot there to kind of look into. If someone like myself is starting out into trying to get more in tune or more knowledgeable with SEO, where would you say would be a good place to start?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of industry publication like Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Watch. Those are kind of the two big ones. There's Moz.com, which was
Yeah.
SEO Moz back in the day, and they rebranded. So there's a lot of great information out there. Usually, if you do a search, learn SEO, things of that nature, they will show up, top one, two, and three. So they're kind of your best bets in terms of getting a deeper dive. And
Mhm.
if you are just starting out, there's kind of intro PDFs and different kind of
Okay.
learning materials that you can at least get the terminology or jargon and get the definitions for certain things that you may see if you do attempt to either learn or at least be somewhat knowledgeable to understand what agencies or in-house people are doing when they're working on your website and optimizing it.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like an important thing as far as online business and is to kind of understand that or at least have some wherewithal about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, online, your website is kind of the pillar of your brand and reputation. So the further you can reach and that organic traffic when you build it up and obviously maintaining it and building it over time, because it's not one of those things if you achieve, a first page ranking for a specific thing or your website starts performing, you just stop out of nowhere. That's not how it works. So it's an ever changing thing. And like I said, all digital marketing efforts, in my opinion, that website is who your brand is, personal brand or otherwise. And you should really have that kind of ironclad strategy in terms of SEO and
Mm.
just branding and what your brand is about, the core values demonstrated, the social proof, anything that you can have on there or incorporate that helps a user make a decision to why they're there and why they should choose you for product, service, or information. The
Uh-huh.
easier you make it, the better chance you have in terms of converting that person.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I mean that opens up a whole lot, especially with like reoccurring like customers or something like that, or just turning people into fans that always come back and share and just visit your site. Um, what would be, I guess, within it all, the hardest part about like improving your SEO?
Well, I mean, it was kind of a lot Wild West when I first started, and then
Yeah.
things developed like social media over
Mm.
time. I mean, Facebook was still in its infancy, Twitter just came out, LinkedIn was in its infancy, and all of these platforms have matured and new platforms have came along. So incorporating social media in terms of kind of your content strategy, how to promote it, how to tie it into your search engine optimization efforts and other
Yeah.
things, because simply focusing on search engine optimization is great, but you should really incorporate or at least test different things like paid social, paid
Mhm.
search, social media in general, other things in terms of building reputation and kind of collaborating with other like-minded individuals or business on like content opportunities, different things in terms of video, audio. Obviously, the audio platform and podcasts in general have grown a lot over the past few years. So incorporating different things within your strategy and
Okay.
then incorporating that also from a technical sense. So different things in terms of like data highlighting and structured data where you can really incorporate things or show the search engine and pull things in into other platforms like Google HomePod. If you highlight data, then you can incorporate things on your site if you ask a question and get it in terms of a
Mm.
voice response. So that as technology and different things are changing over time and they're being incorporated, that you becomes kind of like the sign of the time. So different things get added to the technical sense in terms of optimization, and then
Hmm.
you have to kind of keep up and refresh your website in that sense as well.
Wow. Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into it, and like, and I know you mentioned like the social media and like having that correlation and connection. And I know you hear all the time about like the Facebook or the Instagram algorithm changing all the time. Like, is that really, does it really change that often in big like leaps like that?
When they do their first one, I mean, organic reach is pretty much capped for Facebook, Instagram. LinkedIn is still pretty a best bet in terms of content strategy. You can build a lot of authority and get your content seen more so than on Instagram and Facebook. When they started capping it before, like all of your fans or people within your group can see in their feed what you
Yeah.
posted. Now it's only a limited percentage of that.
Okay.
So they tried to kind of shift you to a paid model. So if you want to have
Gotcha.
everybody see it, you use targeting metrics of everybody in my group targeted so they see that, or in general move to more of a paid model where they're making business of advertising, which is a key, obviously,
Yeah,
money driver for them.
for sure. So I guess is there a way that you would suggest increasing your organic reach without doing the paid stuff at first?
I mean, I would say depending on the platform. So
Mhm.
groups on different platforms. So groups on LinkedIn are really good. I mean,
Okay.
like a year and a half ago, like the reach was a lot better also, but incorporating and promoting your content to like-minded communities. So I would just say or describe it as piggybacking of already established communities that you're targeting. So especially, if you sell fishing rods, find the top, groups on Facebook that are, fishing enthusiasts and organically position that content to them, drive them to a Facebook group that you can give even more kind of useful or beneficial content to then drive them to either purchasing whatever you're selling, bait, fishing rod, or whatever in
Mm,
that example, or just whatever you're looking to achieve to be a, informational kind of, I guess, influencer in a way to
yeah,
share your story or whatever you want to achieve. So I think kind of starting broadly and then kind of funneling that traffic to something more kind of distinct, and then eventually offering something, getting their email, putting them on your email list. And then once you have that, you are in control of that per se. So you're
got
taking that broadness off the social platform, and then you can really tailor the messaging when you really have that, contact information of those
yeah.
users.
Because email is still big, one of the biggest, right? Ways to connect and to grow your audience. Is that right still?
It is, but I mean, the numbers have gone down in terms of kind of the open rates and that kind of thing. It depends
Mhm.
how engaged your email list is and how targeted it is. If it's
Okay.
very broad, obviously the campaigns you're running have to be dedicated to certain segments of that list, and the way you actually, tag it in your CRM is important. So where they're coming from, did you have a webinar? Are these people qualified from that webinar? And then you can retarget them in a way. So adding as much kind of defining of whatever the audience is and kind of grouping them so it's easier to target after the fact.
Nice. Yeah. So a lot to go into that to really grow the audience. Um, would you say that I know you said the algorithms are changing a lot for organic. Is there what about like this whole thing with like TikTok? Is that a viable platform for many, or is it just for, teens dancing off and doing random stuff?
I got on TikTok actually a couple months
Okay.
ago, and I didn't really want to sell anything or
Yeah.
like whatever. So all my content is really foster care focused. So help
Okay.
for their foster uh, parents, people that would like to get in and thinking about foster care, just showing other people that like there's a lot of kids that have responded that are now adults that have
Mm,
had bad experiences and good to
mhm.
the posts that I share. And it's like a wild west there. Like I said, when something first starts, they want
Yeah.
as many users and as many creators because the more content they have, then when they start rolling out paid, which they're starting to more heavily,
Uh-oh.
they have that already, established community.
Got
So right now it's slowing down a little bit in terms of reach, but it's still not capped. So for example, it took me a minute to make a video, 60-second clip. Basically, this was my background other than a sound shield, and maybe a minute to edit. So currently, that video is at like 62,000 views, like
Wow.
4,000 likes. And it's one of those things, it's not capped. So it peaked that, it basically got on the For You page. So if you go on the For You page and you get a lot of interaction, it basically goes viral to a certain extent.
Okay.
So it's gotten to 60. I mean, my next goal is to getting a post to 100,000 plus views, and then the next is a million, which is interesting because I'm kind of reverse engineering the process and if I can incorporate it. But like you were saying, because I think because of this pandemic,
Mm,
the age demo got a lot older very quickly
I bet.
because it's forcing people to move from other platforms. And I think it's still a very kind of like fun platform where people are just figuring out, and it's moving away from like the lip syncing dancing
Mm,
aspect to it to basically incorporating different people in terms of what they're going through, some of the things they're looking for in terms of support, businesses that are posting things like artists, comedians. It's a good platform to share,
okay. Yeah.
photographers. And yeah, I mean, I've been playing around with it. I've been creating maybe, I would say, 3 to 6 posts a day and seeing
Okay.
how, what things catch, different titles, how things are connected. And you can at least try it. Worst
Yeah.
thing is, you don't have any traction and you feel you can't reach anyone. But the best thing, you don't know. I mean, maybe you make your first post and you get a million views. That's a million people that may have not seen that message or
Yeah.
what you have to share. A lot of people are looking for platforms to share their message, their story, volunteering, nonprofit things that they do, things that are just them simply trying to leave a legacy or give back. And it's, if you test it and it works, run with it. But like for anything in terms of digital, anything new that comes out, like, I mean, when TikTok came out, it was, well, it got purchased and it changed to TikTok. It was Musically. It
Right.
was a bunch of,
Yeah.
teenagers doing different, dance videos and stuff like that and lip syncing. So it matured over time. It got older. It's still getting older. I think it's still trying to figure itself out as a platform in terms of, how it's grouped and how people see the content, and it's getting better over time. You have to also think it is a, Chinese owned company,
Yeah.
so the privacy things and different user agreements are a lot differently. So different. So I'd read it. So if you post anything about like religion or something different, oftentimes those posts are taken down.
Hmm.
They have well, it, I post foster care content. I've had posts being taken down because sometimes people are just like envious or salty about what you're posting and don't like it, and
Uh,
then hit review. So they take it down, and then it has to be manually reviewed.
wow.
And it happened 2 weeks ago. I had a post. They manually reviewed it, but their kind of reviewing process is kind of shot. So I mean, I emailed a bunch of people and posted it on other platforms. I had 2 posts in the last probably 2 months that's happened, and it was reviewed both times, and they put it back up. But because they have an automatic trigger that's not manually reviewed, I got a message right after they actually put it up saying, I'm banned from posting for a week because I've got too many violations, which I didn't, but the system isn't made for like that manual change of that.
Oh,
So even though they put up all my posts in the last 3, 4 months that have been technically flagged, but all they
yeah.
were posts about my experience about fostering, the trigger still implemented a week posting ban, which
Wow.
is something I think they should really work on.
That's interesting. Yeah, I never would like thought of that happening with it being owned by China and stuff. That's really, I think it's always fun to see new things come about, just to see how they, like you said, grow over time, and if they what will become with them. Like Facebook, like how it started, or like I remember MySpace when I was younger. Now that's really ancient history. But yeah, I guess that's a great point you made. Just like trying, just putting stuff out there. Excuse me. Like so you said you talk about foster care. So do you like funnel it back to your digital marketing business at all,
No,
or?
I also every maybe 5 to 10 posts, I'll put up a post about one of my episodes for my podcast.
Okay.
A lot of the times, maybe the conversation goes to foster care or adoption, and then a lot of the interviews I do or on other podcasts and other news kind of outlets are specifically my experiences with the foster care system, being a foster parent. So that's already applicable to those communities. So
Yeah. Cool.
assets that I'm given from the shows that I'm on often are video clips, and I can just kind of splice it, add some,
Yeah.
titles and headings, and then put it back on there. But the funny thing is, it's like I said, you have to try. So
Right.
that post that went kind of viral, there was another one basically about COVID-19 because we had to take the kids, they weren't feeling well one day,
Okay.
to a place, an urgent care place, because the hospital wouldn't admit them because they had no symptoms. But that urgent care facility was a COVID testing center. So
Uh,
we basically had to take them there, even though that facility may have been kind of exposed or, compromised by that,
hmm.
people that were already testing positive. So
Right.
I posted that, and somebody from a New York City magazine publication saw it and then reached out via email and said, "Hey, I saw your TikTok post. Can you do an interview real quick?" And then the next day I jumped on the phone. They basically recorded the conversation, and 2 days later there was a news article about myself and my wife about our experiences and the pictures I provided from the last few weeks with the kids. So
Huh.
stuff like that, opportunities arise that you don't necessarily think of.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I did not post that or have an account, that opportunity probably wouldn't have came about.
Wow. That's, hey, I would never thought about it. I guess I need to hop on that train and just start putting things out there. So, um, yeah, and it'll be interesting to see like even what comes about in the future as far as online stuff, especially with all this going on. Like so much things are realizing like the online way. I mean, is kind of the future almost. What's your thoughts on that? What do you think the future going forward is going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely in terms of e-commerce.
Mm,
That's gonna, I mean, e-commerce is a huge chunk of, sales globally for, products or items.
yeah,
That's gonna continue growing. Well, one, different countries are gonna come out of this whole quarantine, shelter at home thing at different times. So that's gonna stay in place and basically evolve from like online shopping, and how that basically looks. I mean, the players for the most part are Amazon. I know there's a company in India that got bought. Amazon was trying to buy it, but actually Walmart bought it. So there are still markets where Amazon may not be number one. They're obviously number two. So kind of different battles for that number one spot in different countries, and like what experiences are they presenting to those individual companies and globally as a whole. So, I mean, the commerce component is big, and I think the food industry now, because restaurants are closed, are evolving to things like Uber Eats and different things of that Grubhub.
yeah,
Those are going to continue to grow, and it's just going to be a more of a kind of a digital commerce world per se, because I mean, just communicating wise, it's going to be different. I mean, I don't know if like the handshake itself is going to go away, or different kind of social behaviors based
right.
on this whole pandemic experience and how that carries over. But like you
Mm,
said, emerging platforms and emerging technologies are just, inevitable over time as technology advances. So you
yeah,
have to see and apply how you can use that to target your audience, because ultimately you're just trying to find and figure out where that audience that you're trying to attract spends time online, and then market to them at those places, obviously not being annoying about it, adding value. But
yep,
bottom line, have a captivating message or a unique value proposition, and then basically catering it to that platform or whatever that delivery mechanism. Obviously, content for Facebook is different than, a Google Ads ad, and you
mm,
can still be the same focus, but different kind of messaging and structure,
gotcha.
and basically reaching people and ideally triggering an emotion, usually positive, but it could be negative too, because that's what people remember. I mean, the best ads you watch in terms of TV are the things that connect to you emotionally from something you've been through or something that, makes you happy. And that's the kind of brands that stand out over time, the Coca-Colas and
Yeah.
those types of brands that basically show as that being a life experience, not only a soft drink.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, because companies like that, they show their why, like what they're about, and then they branch out to explain like what. So they harness the emotion part of our brains and our being, and then focus in after that on, and this is why we have a really good product or whatever.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, it has to tie in. You have to have a good, you
yep.
can't only have a good message. I mean, if you have a bad product or a bad service or the company is shady, but you paint it a different way, eventually, because of the internet, you're going to be found out. So
Yeah.
you have to have a good message and a good product or service or whatever you're trying to kind of convey or pass on to a user or visitor.
Yep.
And that's kind of the formula. If you have one or the other, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I know, I agree. So I think do you have like a top three things that you would suggest someone starting out within like digital marketing or digital expansion to start focusing on to improve their path?
So just in general, they've done nothing online.
They're just kind of getting started. They might have like a regular social media presence like everybody else, but they're trying to like brand out.
Well, one, basically, hopefully your brand is unique enough that the naming conventions already exist. You know what I mean? So I would say for any of the top platforms, go in and just create shells if you're not ready to populate it with creative
Mm,
or, branding imagery. Just get the profiles created with those brand names, because eventually they may or may not be taken, but to be on the
gotcha.
safe side, like it's kind of defending your brand. Like same thing I'd recommend with URLs
Okay.
related to your brand. Purchase all, variations of them and park them. You don't have to use them. You can redirect the ones you don't use to your main version, or a main URL. So I think it's a lot of just becoming visible and protecting your brand,
Okay.
because oftentimes online, I mean, there's a lot of fake reviews and fake different things, write-ups. You kind of have to do that as well. And I think once in a while, the easiest thing you can probably do is set up Google Alerts if you don't have a
Okay.
social kind of listening platform that you pay for, and just search for or kind of add words or phrases related to your brand and your brand as well. So brand in combination, you know, I don't know, something Smith Brothers, I don't know, roofing or whatever,
Yeah.
different things, variations
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
And then monitor it at least daily, maybe if you don't have time, a few days to see if there's anything negative that's coming out so you can defend your brand, because it's a lot harder to build your brand, and that brand kind of reputation can be destroyed in one tweet.
Yeah.
So figuring that, having a social media strategy, how you deal with different situations, how you deal with negative reviews. A lot of reviews online are fake. So you'll have competitors, acting shady oftentimes and writing bad reviews to try to, kind of discredit you or your business. It doesn't happen, to every business, but it is fairly common. So
Mm.
figuring out how do you deal with that, and you may get a negative review. You can't really please everyone,
Right.
but having a proper kind of formal response to that.
Okay.
Either are you going to just leave it alone, or are you going to say we're sorry for your experience. If we can do anything else, if it's a restaurant, maybe coming for another meal, give us another try, or offer a savings or a
Mm.
refund or reimbursement, but have that kind of response be public, because just sitting there and
Yeah.
not doing anything isn't the right strategy in that sense.
Okay. Cool. Wow. Awesome. I think those are great. Definitely tips for people starting out, or even trying to rebrand or whatnot. So I appreciate it. Roman. Before you go, we're so appreciative of your time. I'd like to ask one question that has to do with like pencil leadership, the last trait. So obviously a pencil is made to leave a mark, and it can do that on any kind of surface. It might just take more work. So at the end of after everything's over, the end of your time here on Earth, what do you hope your mark is that you've left that people see?
I think the question as a whole, I think leaving a legacy.
Mm.
So a lot of people don't necessarily switch over to a legacy mindset. I think when I turned 30, it was more about kind of chasing material things and
Yeah.
titles and that kind of thing, to giving back and leaving a legacy in terms of people that have come across me, people that maybe have met me once. And I left an impression, kids that I fostered, that maybe that month or year in my home really changed the path or trajectory of their whole process. And just kind of giving back as much as I can in digital, anything I can offer. A lot of stuff I do pro bono for
Yeah.
nonprofits and stuff like that, free of charge. And I think it is gratifying and rewarding oftentimes on LinkedIn and other platforms. We see what you're doing, we see what you're putting in terms of the community, what you're trying to do and accomplish, and you're doing a good job and keep going and stuff like that. Just words of encouragement really show that you're on the right path. And oftentimes there are more people watching than actually saying. So
Mm.
you're really impacting a lot of people. I mean, I've had people come out of the woodwork that last time I've seen them was like 10 years ago, and like last 5 years I saw you really, like, all your content on social, but they haven't said one comment, have contacted me in any way. They're just somebody I met or went to school with at some
Yeah.
point, and they're like, it's really inspirational, and like,
That's
thank
awesome.
God you're doing that. And it's just one of those things, like I said, you don't know who's watching, and I think everybody has that duty to impact. A lot of athletes oftentimes say, I'm not a hero or I'm not a role model, but if you're given that platform or of limelight or not, just those around you and communities, at least try to do good, in my opinion, or set a good example. Because I mean, I think you just owe it to the human race in general. There's so many bad things going on there.
Yeah.
And I think I would do a disservice to the people that came before me, the people that brought me to this country, if I didn't give it my all and at least try to leave a mark in that sense as well.
Wow, that's awesome, Roman. I love that. And yeah, I think everyone has influence, no matter what level or position, in some way. Because, like you said, someone's always watching. They might not say anything, but so we have that kind of duty to them to set a good example. So, again, Roman, thank you so much for being on Pencil Leadership today, bringing a lot of great knowledge about digital marketing, SEO, and just how to leave a legacy. So we really appreciate you being on today.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
No problem. All right, guys, you can check out this episode probably in a couple weeks on pencil leadership. So keep your eyes open for when that is posted on social media. You guys